What is up, guys? So today I have for the iPhone 16 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and today I'm going to be comparing these two phones just to see overall which one is better based on the specifications and my overall experience with these two devices. So let's get started. Okay, so starting off with the price. So at the time of this video, the Galaxy S25 Ultra is currently sitting at $1,300. As for the iPhone 16 Pro, we're going to be sitting at $1,100 to $1,200. It's kind of in between there. I think it's like $150 or something. So the main reason why these phones are almost $200 apart is the fact that this is the Pro iPhone and not the Pro Max. And this is the Ultra Samsung and not the Plus. So keep in mind that these aren't the highest offerings of Samsung and Apple, but considering that the iPhone 16 Pro Max is basically the iPhone 16 Pro with a bigger size and a bigger battery. Other than that, the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max are basically the exact same thing, so it's pretty safe to say they can compare these two pretty equally. Now for the colors of these two phones, I'm going to have to give the point to Samsung just because they do have a lot more of a vibrant choice to pick from. Because on the Samsung, you have this jet black, which is a Samsung exclusive color, a jade green, and like a pink gold or titanium pink, or I think it's titanium pink gold. And those three are Samsung exclusive colors, and they look really nice. We also have a titanium silver blue, titanium black, titanium gray, I think, and titanium white. Although I'm not sure about, I think it's either gray or something else. So we have a pretty good color palette when it comes to this phone. Let me know down in the comments if you like it or not. And for the iPhone 16 Pro, we just have 4 colors. We have this natural titanium, which I'm actually a pretty big fan of. I do like the desert titanium a lot better. So this iPhone 16 Pro comes in this natural titanium, a desert titanium, black titanium, and a white titanium. I think they all look really great. I definitely prefer the desert titanium and the natural titanium, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But I'm going to give the color category to the Samsung. So overall, I'm going to give the point of the price aspect and the colors to the Galaxy S25 Ultra because you are getting a more powerful device, which I will talk about later. And also considering that this is Samsung's top of the line flagship phone, so it's obviously going to have a higher price tag compared to Apple's, I guess, second tier, so not the most premium device that they have to offer. So yeah, I'm going to give this category to Samsung. And considering that this is the Ultra and not the Plus version, which means the Pro will obviously be cheaper than the Ultra. Wait, no, okay. Okay, and now for camera, I guess, features. So in this comparison, the iPhone 16 Pro is really the only phone that has special features, I guess when it comes to taking photos, except for the extra zoom on the S25 Ultra. But yeah, so we have this new camera control, which call it what you want it. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's a kind of nice feature. It is kind of annoying that you do need a case with a notch, or you have to pay $50 for an official Apple one, or you could get one from ESR, which I think is maybe $25, so it's not that expensive, but still, it's kind of an inconvenience because you can't pick just any case like you could on the older phones because you will lose that functionality. But yeah, when it comes to the camera control, it's basically just a solid state button that is basically just used to control the camera. And honestly, switching to the Galaxy S25 Ultra, I did not miss the camera control at all because I feel like it just wasn't a big enough of a feature to really convince me to use it that often, especially miss it. Now, one nice feature that it did kind of give you is the visual intelligence, which is basically like Bixby Vision or Samsung Circle to Search, which has been around for forever. But now it's finally on the iPhone, and it's only available with the iPhone 16 series because of the new action or the new camera control button. So yeah, when it comes to camera features, I'm going to give the point to iPhone, but I'm not going to overall count this point just because it's kind of a useless feature and Samsung doesn't have something similar to offer. And now let's talk about the performance, battery life, and software. So those three things kind of go along. The chip kind of hinders or improves the battery life, and the way you kind of feel the battery life and the performance is through the software. So I don't know, let me know if you think those things kind of go together, but personally I think they do. So for the performance aspect, Samsung clearly wins this. So the Galaxy S25, oh, I feel like that was kind of too extreme. But the Galaxy S25 Ultra does have the Snapdragon 8 Elite chip for Galaxy, so it is going to be just overall a much better device. I haven't done any personal tests, but it does reach almost 10,000 on like the multi-score, I think it is. On like a Geekbench or Wildlife test or something. I'll put the stats on screen for the Galaxy S25 Ultra and the iPhone 16 Pro, like how they scored. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to performance, the Galaxy is better. Now, some people can argue, oh, the iPhone's faster, even though the Samsung is technically faster. That's not really that true, because really the only way people justify that is apps. And let me tell you, Marquez, or maybe Marquez, but like Mr. Who's the Boss has said that apps are developed extremely lazily on Android. It's not necessarily Android's fault. It's just, I feel like people have a lot more, I guess, loyalty to Apple because they probably make more money from it, stuff like that. But yeah, overall, apps are going to work better and faster on iPhone than they do on Samsung, but that doesn't mean that performance isn't like better. And I know a lot of people would be like, okay, so then why did Samsung add this crazy powerful chip if you can't utilize that? So you can utilize it in like kind of everyday tasks, like just the phone staying smooth overall, like not glitching at all, just staying smooth and not overheating, which is huge. And also in more intensive things like certain gaming, like car racing games, stuff like that, will run so much better and smoother on this device. And like Genshin Impact and some other ones like that are like really like highly like intensive when it comes to the graphics and stuff. So it is going to run a lot better on a phone with a higher chipset. So when it comes to performance, both of these do have great performances, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to give the point to the Galaxy just because it overall has a better processor and the software does make it feel a lot faster. Okay, and as for battery life, I can pretty much say the same thing. The Galaxy does win in this category. Now, again, this is the iPhone 16 Pro, not the Pro Max, so it is going to have a smaller battery. So keep in mind that you will be getting a better battery life on the Pro Max than you will the iPhone 16 Pro. So yeah, considering the Galaxy S25 Ultra does have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, it can get over a day of battery life from one charge with heavy usage. And on the iPhone 16 Pro, we have a 4,354. It's a random number like that, but I'll put it on screen what the exact is. But yeah, so we definitely have a noticeably smaller battery on the iPhone 16 Pro. But I will say, a friend of mine does have the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and he said that he's been getting pretty much the same battery life that he did on his iPhone 15 Pro, and it's pretty similar to what I was experiencing on the iPhone 16 Pro, so keep that in mind. You will get better battery life, but it won't be drastically better. So yeah, I'm going to give the battery life area to the Galaxy, and also something that kind of goes along with the performance aspect is the fact that this Galaxy has a 40% larger vapor chamber than the previous version. So it is going to handle heat a lot better, and not necessarily heat, but like heat dissipation. So if it does get hot, or when it does get hot, it will cool down a lot faster. And I definitely have noticed this, especially when compared to my iPhone, because iPhones, whenever they get hot, unless you're putting them down and probably powering them off, they're going to stay hot until you're done using it. When on the Galaxy, if it does get hot from something, if you move on to something more, I guess, dormant, like scrolling or like watching videos or something, it is going to cool down a lot faster than it ever would on the iPhone. So yeah, that's overall a point for Samsung. Okay, and now let's talk about the software aspect of these two phones. And honestly, before I really talk about it, I'm going to call these a tie, just because these are both really great softwares in their own way. But Samsung's One UI 7 is so much better than One UI 6, and I can definitely say that they're now actually the same. Galaxy's One UI 7 might actually be a little bit better than iPhone's in a few aspects. So starting off with the lock screen, I mean, honestly, pretty much the same kind of concept. You have the widgets, you have the camera control, you have like the camera or call shortcuts, whatever you want. Now, I will say these shortcuts have been here for a while on Samsung, so it's not something that's new, but something that is definitely inspired, definitely heavily copied from Apple is the fact that on One UI 7, the notifications and the quick settings are now separated. So you have to swipe from the top right side of the phone to activate the quick settings. Very nice animation. And for the notifications, you could either just scroll with your thumb or scroll from the top left side of the phone. Again, nice bouncy animations, really responsive. And overall, I think Samsung really just nailed it with the animations of One UI 7, especially, okay, This isn't really anything that's super important, but now you can open and close apps really quickly, which does have something kind of to do with the software and the like overall like performance and like the and the processor of this phone. But it's nice to see that Samsung can finally, I guess, like match iPhone speed, which is pretty nice to see. And now, I mean, it seems like Apple's just a little bit slow when compared. But yeah, both of these definitely have really great softwares. And now let's address the dynamic island in the room. iOS 7, Samsung kind of introduced this now bar, or not kind of, they did introduce this now bar, which kind of resembles quite heavily Apple's dynamic island. And I think it's a nice implementation of like Samsung's like music player, but it definitely has a kind of dynamic island-esque feel, especially when you lock the phone and look at the home screen. The same thing happens on the Galaxy that it used to on the iPhone. So whenever you tap the music art, it will pop up in this nice little animation, and it'll be kind of your wallpaper. You guessed it, the same thing happens on Samsung. I kind of do wish they just would have outright copied Apple and made like the wallpaper the same color as the music art, but it still looks kind of nice. I do think they could have done a little bit better of a job, but it definitely looks like Samsung, and I'm kind of glad they kept their design language. They also kind of copied the dynamic island in the top part, so hi Bixby. Oh, hi Bixby. Start a timer for 1 minute.
1 minute. I'll start your timer for 1 minute.
Okay, so as you can see, we have the dynamic island on the iPhone and the, is it now bar? I don't know if it's, I think it's still the now bar, or I'll put it on screen if it's not still the now bar. And it's basically the exact same thing as the dynamic island. You can interact with it. You can do the exact same thing that you can on the dynamic island, which is crazy to see Samsung just kind of outright copy Apple. Now, it's definitely a lot better than other companies like Xiaomi or something that literally put a dynamic island on their phone, like the exact same way Apple did. So it is in Samsung's own style, but it's definitely obvious that they did copy a certain somebody. Okay, what about assistants? So I will have a separate video just focusing on comparing these two assistants, but on the iPhone we have Siri with the Apple Intelligence, which is kind of nice but lacking in some areas, and we have Google's Gemini and Bixby. So it's a cross between Gemini and Bixby, which is really nice. And overall, I think Samsung did do a better job, and it was a good thing that they collabed with Google to bring Bixby to the next level with the help of Gemini, because it now has in-app action, so it can like add something to your calendar, text your friend, all in one command, which is really nice. And I'm going to give the point to Samsung. And we also have Bixby, which has actually gotten a pretty big improvement over the past generations, and something that I only noticed on the Galaxy that I haven't on the Z Flip 6, even though the Z Flip 6 has gotten the like new Bixby, is the Bixby voice on the Samsung S25 Ultra does sound a lot more human than it does on the Z Flip, so that is a nice improvement, and I'm not sure if that's going to like change later down the road, but yeah, it's definitely nice. Yeah, I mean, overall, Bixby is a lot faster than it used to be. It's almost caught up to Siri, but not quite. So, hi, Bixby. Oh, okay, the reason why it is quitting because I have multiple phones here that are, like, responding. So let me go ahead and turn this off real quick. Hi, Bixby. Open settings. So, as you can see, Samsung's Bixby is just 1 second behind Apple's, but I think it's pretty comparable. Hi, Bixby. Open YouTube Studio.
To do that, you'll need to be online.
Okay, so this couldn't do it, but this one could. Maybe that's because this phone is actually on like internet and this one isn't connected to Wi-Fi and everything, so maybe that's it. But I still think it should be able to access apps. Let me go ahead and turn Bixby's hotspot off. Okay, I quickly disconnected that. Bixby. Open YouTube Studio.
To do that, you'll need to be online.
Okay, so it's the same thing even though both of these phones are currently offline. So yeah, I'm going to give the point to Samsung when it comes to the assistants. Apple's Siri is definitely really great, but yeah, I'm just going to overall give the point to Samsung here. Now let's talk about the design, because, I mean, arguably with the Galaxy S25 Ultra, these two designs now look pretty similar. So if you compare the Galaxy S23 Ultra to a previous gen, like a S23 Ultra, if you now compare these two phones between each other, you will see a lot of difference. The main things that stand out are the, like, pointed corners, and people are saying that now that Samsung removed them with the 25 Ultra, Samsung now kind of like lost their brand identity, but let me know what you think about that down in the comments. Personally, I don't think that's quite the case, but I could definitely see a lot of people liking these sharp corners. Like some iPhone users that I know, they have a case that would kind of do the same thing, add some super sharp corners, and they really liked it. So maybe some people just kind of like a phone with that design. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on these pointed corners, or I guess lack thereof. When it comes to the actual physical design, on the Galaxy S23 Ultra, we have a 6.9-inch display, and I'm pretty sure it's a 6.9-inch just overall profile. If not, I'll put it on the screen. I'm assuming that's what it is. And on the iPhone 16 Pro, we have a 6.1-inch screen, so it's definitely a lot smaller. But honestly, I don't know. If you want a bigger phone, then on the iPhone, you can just get the Pro Max, which is, like I said, basically the exact same phone, just in a bigger size with a bigger screen and slightly bigger battery. But yeah, when it comes to the size, I probably am personally going to prefer the iPhone 16 just because I like a smaller overall form factor. But the Galaxy S25 Ultra, I think now that it doesn't have those sharp corners, feels a lot more comfortable than like anything like the previous gens ever did. That's my personal opinion. Let me know down in the comments if you like it or not. Overall, the fact that these phones have two different overall form factors and sizes, I'm going to call this a tie. So when it comes to the durability of these two phones, which kind of goes along with the design, which is something that's very important when it comes to just smartphones in general. So on the iPhone 16 Pro, we have the ceramic shield. It's like a new, like, I don't know if you want to necessarily call it second generation ceramic shield, but essentially that's what this is. And we have grade 5 titanium on the rails. And on the Galaxy S25 Ultra, we have Corning's second generation of the Gorilla Glass armor, which is really nice. And I'll leave a link down in the description to a drop test that somebody did. And the Galaxy S25 Ultra is actually a lot more durable than the iPhone 16 Pro, which that hasn't been the case in any previous Samsung phone. So definitely go check that video out. I'll leave a link down in the description. And when it comes to the rails, we have grade 5 titanium. I'm not 100% sure that's what it is, but everything is kind of pointing to the fact that it's grade 5 titanium. All we know is that it is a higher grade. A lot of people think it is to grade 5 titanium. I don't know if anyone's actually tested it, but I'm going to go ahead and say that it is most likely grade 5 titanium. So also looking at these phones' display, and that's honestly something that's pretty important too. So on both these devices, we do have pretty thin bezels. Now, I will say I'm pretty sure the screen protector that I'm using actually does add a little bit of bezel, because as you can see, the screen protector does have some bezel by itself. And if I kind of go to tear it off a little bit, I don't think the camera can quite focus. But as you can see, there's the thinness of the borders. So I think the screen protector does add a little bit to it. But overall, these two phones have really thin bezels and they just look really nice and futuristic and just really premium. But the Galaxy S25 Ultra does definitely look a little bit more premium because it does have a hole punch cutout instead of Apple's Dynamic Island. Even though with One UI 7 they did add a similar feature, I think it's good to see Samsung implementing a little bit more of a better, I guess, software design than Apple did. So overall, both of these phones feel super premium and just overall like a really great choice. So I'm going to call the overall design and durability a draw. Okay, now let's talk about the camera systems, because a camera system is probably one of the most important aspects of any smartphone, and these two phones obviously are no different. So on the Galaxy S25 Ultra, we do technically have a more impressive camera system overall than the iPhone 16 Pro. We have a 2000 megapixel main camera and a upgraded 50 megapixel ultra wide and a 50 megapixel 5x telephoto lens and a 3 megapixel 10x lens, which I honestly think they should get rid of the 3 megapixel camera and like focus on working on these like optical and digital qualities, which they're all really great, don't get me wrong, but just to integrate it enough so they don't need this, or upgrade the megapixel count. That's all I ask of Samsung. And we also got a LiDAR type sensor up here. iPhone 16 Pro, we have 3 cameras, so just one less than the 25 Ultra. So we have a... Okay, I had to think about that for a little while. So on the iPhone 16 Pro, we have a 48 megapixel primary lens, a 48 megapixel ultra wide, and a 12 megapixel 5x tetra prism lens. There we go. So on the iPhone 16 Pro, we have a pretty decent camera setup. Again, not the quite so stunning Galaxy S25 Ultra system with the 200 megapixel camera and like the 50 megapixel. Overall, both of these camera systems do perform really well. And pretty much the only thing that Apple can brag about when it comes to just overall the cameras is the fact that it does not have better zoom, but it does have smoother zoom. So switching between the lenses is going to be a little bit more responsive on the iPhone. So if we go ahead and zoom in, as you can see, there isn't any noticeable lens switching going on, even though it is obviously happening. Now, when you compare that to the Galaxy S25 Ultra, whenever you just switch between the lenses, it's not bad, but it's just not as smooth as it is on iPhone. So yeah, that is definitely something to keep in mind, but both have great camera systems. And in just a few seconds, I will have some videos from these two phones and pictures to compare, so you guys get to see some camera samples. So let's talk about some of the kind of AI features with photos, and then let's move on to showing the photos. So a really important aspect of cameras on any phone is how you take the photos and how you can edit the photos. So both of these phones do have pretty good, both have pretty good camera apps. I probably would say I like the iPhones maybe a little bit better, but considering what Samsung's used to be on One UI 6, it is arguably so much better. It looks a lot cleaner. All the information is now at this little neat menu at the bottom instead of at the top. It's just a lot better and a lot cleaner. The animations are arguably way better, and overall just a much better app. But when you compare it to the iPhone's camera app, I just feel like something about it is kind of lacking a little bit. I don't know if it's just the years of optimization that Apple has clearly put into developing their own camera app, when Samsung really hasn't done all too much to change their camera app except for this past year with One UI 7. So I'm going to call this kind of a tie, but I definitely think Apple does have a slightly better app, but they're both super great as long as you're used to them. Okay, and now for the photo apps. So these two phones do have arguably kind of different photo apps, but they do essentially the exact same thing. So here I have the same photo pulled up on both of these phones, and as you can see, I think the Samsung does have a lot better quality when it comes to displaying the pictures, just because the display is overall better than the iPhones, because as you can see, they're both taken on the iPhone 16 Pro. They're both the exact same date. Everything's the exact same, so it's not like they were taken on two different phones or anything. But both of these gallery apps, like I said, have pretty much the same kind of feature. So if you press and hold on something, you can select it on Samsung. Oh, they tried to select the text. Okay, couldn't find anything to clip. Let's try. Okay, there we go. You can clip that. Here on the iPhone, again, try to copy text, which is good because some people might want to do that in certain scenarios. Okay, here the iPhone's having a little bit of a hard time recognizing that I want to select it. Let me zoom in. Let me make that a little bit. There we go. Okay, it did actually. Oh, and it's gone now. But you could see that it tried to select half of the wall. There we go. Half of the wall, as you can see, the wall element is still on the sign, and not all of it was selected. Opposed to the Samsung, just selecting the sign and that's it. So it is a lot better on the Samsungs because I think it's just overall a little bit better at recognizing objects than it is on iPhone, even though Apple did implement this feature first. And when it comes to actually editing photos, so we do have a pretty similar system. Obviously the icons are going to be different. So with Samsung, you pretty much have like all the features that you do on Apple. You can now choose the different styles with the Galaxy S25 series. I don't think this feature is going to be arriving to older Samsung phones, but I would say Apple just gives you a little bit more, I guess, versatility or more control over changing the colors of the phone, like brightening it, because it takes information from the photo and applies it, which means this feature is only available on pictures that are taken on the iPhone, opposed to you being able to apply this to pretty much any picture you have on your Galaxy, even though you pretty much have the same kind of control over it, like the look, saturation, shadow, stuff like that, but it is a little bit better on iPhone. And then when it comes to just adjusting the horizon and stuff, pretty much the same thing. Apple is a little bit less on what you can do when it comes to changing the horizons. You can see I feel like Samsung's a lot more I guess twisted. I feel like Samsung's is just a little bit better, and we do have definitely a lot more editing features when it comes to AI. So we have the reimagine, which is basically just you can take any picture, reimagine it to something bigger, where on the iPhone we just have a kind of boring object eraser, which Samsung has had forever, and even though it does have it, it's not really that good with certain complex things there. As you can see with the sign, it did really good. But it's just not as good at more complex things, for instance, taking a picture of yourself and with your hand over your face and like removing it with AI. On the iPhone, it can't do it, where on the Samsung, it does like a perfect job at it. So considering that these photo apps are pretty much identical and super similar, yet the Galaxy does have more in terms of like actually editing the photos, I think this is obviously going to go to the Samsung for having the better camera and gallery app, just because I think it's overall a better experience.
Okay, so lol, I forgot to film a part for this and I'm on vacation right now, so I can't film it lol, but let's get to the pictures and video. Okay, I'm going to call that a tie.
Now let's briefly touch on the AI aspects of this phone, of these two phones, because that's something that Samsung and Apple have majorly pushed with these two devices, and only one person has done AI properly. So, just for kind of a brief overview on the Galaxy, and I'll put like all the features on screen if I missed any. We have the circle to search, which isn't exactly new, but it's just a nice, easy way to search anything on your device, well, on your screen, and it'll just kind of do a search on it, which is really nice. We also, like I said, have the new Google Gemini and Bixby integration for the assistant. We have the new generative edit and sketch to image, which both work on any existing picture. I think they're probably one of the most fun and just more like useful ways to edit photos using AI. We also have this new AI select feature, which basically just lets you like take a smart screenshot essentially of anything that's on your phone by tapping text or kind of having it kind of locked to a certain like thing, or yeah, like I said, text or like a certain object, just so you can take a really precise screenshot. We also have a new one called the Now Brief, which is basically just a summarization of your day and kind of a morning brief. There's a morning brief, afternoon brief, and a night brief. So basically just kind of goes ahead, tells you everything that you have going on, and kind of gives you some like suggestions, stuff like that. And it'll kind of get better as time goes on, like as the phone knows you more. So it's a pretty sweet feature. And you can also access it on the lock screen. You can kind of see it earlier. You could see it earlier, but now it's disappeared since I did already activate it for tonight. But it is a pretty nice feature. We also have Drawing Assist, which is basically a sketch to image, and it's a pretty nice and cool feature. You can imagine anything you want just by drawing it, and it will generate it into anything, which is kind of like Apple's Genmoji and Image Playground. Except this is a lot more customizable, because the fact that you can draw anything, especially with the S Pen, it can be more precise and just kind of turn out to more what you want it to be. We also have an audio eraser and stuff like that, which can be really nice on this phone. And we also, like I mentioned, we have it on the iPhone 16 Pro as well. And I'm pretty sure there are a few other ones that I'm kind of forgetting. So I'll put like I said, I'll put the list again of features on the screen so you can just kind of look at that for a little bit. And for the iPhone 16 Pro, new Siri. And that's it.
Hello there.
So, I mean, essentially, that's pretty much the only new feature, or like the biggest feature, is the new Siri with the Apple Intelligence, which is a much needed upgrade. But unfortunately, a lot of the features after 5 months of this phone being out are not available yet, which is pretty much one of the biggest points of this phone that Apple made, like to kind of get people to buy it. So that's why I say I think the Galaxy S25 Ultra did a lot better at like promoting this and actually delivering their features on time compared to the iPhone 16 Pro. Other than that, when it comes to the AI features, we do have the Genmoji and Image Playground, like I mentioned before. Just a kind of fun way to like imagine some photos and generate it and stuff. It's not as customizable as it is on the S25 Ultra. And we also have the Object Eraser, like I said before, the new Siri, and the Visual Intelligence. And those are pretty much the main things that I can remember as of right now. Like I said, and the same goes with this phone. I'll put a list of the new AI features on screen. So, with all that said, which one of these devices are actually better? because on one hand, the Samsung offers a super premium device that has great cameras, a great design, a really great looking just overall device, has a great screen. It does actually brighter, which I didn't mention. It has a 2600 nits peak brightness, which is higher than the iPhones. And it's just overall such a nice phone. Sure, it does have a little bit of a higher price tag, but I think you get enough stuff to justify it. But if you are someone who isn't necessarily super tech savvy and you just want a top line phone, super great cameras that you don't have to mess with a bunch of settings to take really great photos, which it is really easy to take photos on the S25 Ultra, but this is more of a point and shoot camera. So it will, I guess, kind of objectively take slightly better point and shoot photos and videos, which is why I prefer this phone for social media production and stuff like that. So I do film all my YouTube shorts on this phone because the YouTube integration is better on iPhone, but the Galaxy S25 Ultra does definitely have a good camera. And overall, I think the user interface on iPhone is just a lot more simple to understand because it's very simple, it's very clean, it's not confusing, there aren't any crazy customization options. It's just a very safe bet for pretty much your average person. So, in that aspect, I would definitely recommend the iPhone 16 Pro. But the Galaxy S25 Ultra is going to have to take the prize here, and I'll put the points on screen of how many categories each individual phone won. But overall, my actual pick, putting aside everything, is going to be the S25 Ultra, and you might be like, okay, well, maybe you're just an Android user. But I did actually switch from this iPhone 16 Pro, which I have been using since it released, and I've been loving it. It's been a great experience. I love the Apple ecosystem, which I might talk about in a separate video. But overall, my experience has been great with the iPhone, but in comparison, I think the Samsung is just overall a better device and just overall my favorite pick. So yeah, I mean, those are my opinions and my choice on these two phones. So thank you for watching. I'll leave some links down in the description from these two phones, like official retailers, one from Apple, one from Samsung. So definitely go check that out if you're interested in picking these phones up. And if you're watching the video until now, comment like a sun emoji or a fire and sunglasses emoji. And yeah, that'll be huge because I really do appreciate when you guys watch my videos to the very end. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, definitely consider subscribing for more videos like this one. And yeah, I mean, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in my next one, and I'll see you then. Bye, guys.